you come with us for doing research on people who are under the influence of marijuana.
And this is Hennepin County?
This is
sheriffs or cops?
Sheriffs from a different county.
Sheriffs from a different county brought you to the first precinct of Minneapolis, Hennepin County. And you smoked weed inside a Hennepin County precinct. So when they were bringing you there, did they handcuff you? Did they tell you anything? Did they give you any rights or anything? Did they take your name?
Well, no, they didn't take my name. They didn't ask for anything.
They didn't ask for anything?
No.
They just wanted to see. What did they say they wanted to get from you?
They wanted to get information.
What kind of information?
Like how people act under the influence of street drugs. In this case, marijuana.
So they knew that you had already smoked, and yet they provided more weed for you to smoke.
Oh yeah.
Was it high grade weed?
Dude, this is some of the best shit I've had in my life. Like, now I know what happens with stuff they confiscate.
Said, would you like to partake in this research that we're doing? It's like, not really. But is there compensation for it? He said, yeah, we'll give you more. We'll give you more marijuana. We'll buy you a pack of cigarettes and take you out to lunch. They said, we know who you are. We know that you're Panda and that you're deep into the Occupy movement. And I was like, dang, am I that infamous in the system? They would give me a quarter more of marijuana, and if I said I would become a informant. Me being the devious bastard that I am, I said, sure. And I reneged as soon as I got out of the cop car on Nicollet and 9th. They didn't really mention too much of what they wanted to know. They said that they would contact me when the time's right.
Just another example of somebody leaving sober, bombed out of their mind. This just goes on all day. Any other points on that? And then let's get into the NATO summit. What's happening with that, the G20, and then your research into the FEMA camp situation, which is now admitted.
Yes. Well, I would just, simply wrap this up by saying the DRE program was supposed to resume today at 3 o'clock, and so we'll see if there are still personnel trying to run this program. We will see if there are vehicles down at the Minnesota Department of Transportation facility, which is at 66th and Cedar Avenue on the east side of the Minneapolis airport, west side of the airport. And so we'll see if they keep running this program. We had to put this video out quickly because this was really, really unsafe for everyone. And so I'm really hoping that the program has been stopped.
One more point I forgot to add. In the video, he talks about they tried to get him to become an informant.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. He said that they basically gave him a quarter ounce of marijuana in exchange for promising to give them information later. And then the other guy, the guy with the big hair, Forrest, he also was started questioning, and he was so intoxicated that he started talking. And so we can clearly see that this is being used to train them to, convert people into informants. Like if it's a training program, that's what they're training.
No, that's how the cops turn your kids against you. This is what some of the Soviets did, is give them drugs. And so now the cops are the drug pushers. I guess they've always been the drug pushers. Look at Serpico.
Right. They're keeping the market alive, right? Making sure the profit margins flow to the financial industry, also known as Wall Street.
That's what I try to tell people. I mean, folks, do not use Big Pharma. They make money, these illegal drugs. It's just, come on, you don't need it. You fall into their trap. But the problem is now they're making whole milk evil so they can raid us. This whole war on drugs, as you said, is proliferating into every level. The surveillance society, the surveillance of banking, the harassment. I mean, every once in a while I get allergies and I go to get some Sudafed and they get my license and scan it and it's such a joke.
Yes. And the sad thing at the public policy level, which I've covered at the state legislature for a long time, legislators who are working on expanding the war on drugs are very deceptive about the fiscal impact of those expenditures, which are obviously a really bad use of taxpayer money that we can't afford right now.
The prisons are bankrupting us. The prisons are bankrupting us.
Yes, but they lie about the fact that these programs will cost money. They lie about the fact making them open-ended will cost money. They basically, it's just disgusting the amount of essentially authoritarian patronage networks which you can expand and finance through this process. It brings black ops to America. It brings corruption of police. They made so much money off 9 years of prohibition. As soon as the alcohol prohibition was over, they made a bunch of drugs you could buy at the drugstore illegal.
and drug use went way up. You can corrupt the police, corrupt the population. You can cut it down. You can create all these rivers of black market money. It's amazing. Look at how the war on drugs has wrecked Latin America. And just for survival, even their corrupt elites are saying legalize it now. And I want your comment on that because you alluded to it. This drug-dealing banking cartel is in crisis. The jig is up. I'm even hearing when Pat Robertson says decriminalize marijuana, you know they're in trouble.
Right. And, you know, the thing is that things that can't go on forever don't. And so at certain points, such as with this video, we're going to finally start laying out the chunks of that basically bring down the fact that it's a system of fakeness. It's a system of fraudulent representations, which let them kind of, you know, keep committing acts like, you know, shaking people down, going to court, etc. And eventually that system of fakeness will start failing if we just keep working at it. But it will take a lot of work to make that happen and to prove to everybody the whole thing is one huge fake scam and that we can't keep doing it anymore. And everyone's records should be expunged. The whole thing should be deleted from everyone's criminal records.
Dan, fight. You're certainly fighting tyranny. I'm impressed. You got 10 minutes. The floor is yours. I'm turning it over to you to get into the FEMA camps, your other research, other things you're working on, websites, other groups. It's good to know people out there understand what's happening. Break it down.
Yes, thank you. One thing I just want to mention is that obviously the NATO summit is coming up in Chicago right now, and that is a national special security event. And so what that means is a whole different kind of set of circumstances come into play. I did just write a story a couple of weeks ago about a new department inside Homeland Security called Homeland Security Investigations. And these guys are getting involved in everything from national special security events to copyright enforcement to hackers to, you know, you name it. They even have like literally black helicopters landing at the Super Bowl, so like, you know, SWAT teams can defend the 35-yard line. I'm not even kidding. So this agency creates backup agents for national special security events, and they also have these giant crazy trucks. This agency, HSI, is currently inside Immigrations and Customs Enforcement. I think everybody should look at it really carefully. It's very interesting. Now, the other thing too is that because in 2008 the Republican National Convention came to Minneapolis, and I was really shocked to see, you know, essentially special deployments of the Minnesota National Guard. And I wanted to know what is the bureaucratic procedure behind all of that? How is that run through their Joint Command Center and so forth? And so I've been looking very carefully for details about that. And so in 2010, I found a file, a PowerPoint presentation on a U.S. Army Corps of Engineer web server for something called National Level Exercise 2011, New Madrid Seismic Zone sort of earthquake test. And so in the presentation, they had accidentally left notes inside the presentation file about a different plan, which is called U.S. Northcom Con Plan 3502. A con plan is a concept of operations plan. It's essentially a planning template. It's so when they pull a plan off the shelf and then they set it up in a place, they use a con plan to set it up. And so Con Plan 3502, which is called Civil Disturbance Operations, I found documentation that is the replacement plan for the Garden Plot, which is the plan that the Pentagon used to deploy troops inside the United States. And so I found evidence that, or citations that Con Plan 3502 includes domestically operated detention facilities by the military. It includes riot control gear, and it includes warrantless search and seizure. So at places like the RNC, the 2009 G20 in Pittsburgh, which I was also at, and then as well as this upcoming NATO summit, I think we can safely say that Con Plan 3502 is an important underlying planning document for the deployment of troops in the United States.
They use these national security events as beta test, not just here, but worldwide. They're duplicating. I noticed at G20, where Dew got arrested 2 years ago, they were snatching and grabbing people. We learned it was private security, was in command of the military, the police, everything.
Well, you know, it's all heavily coordinated, you know, across these different categories. Like domestic military isn't supposed to be doing this. They aren't supposed to be guarding the jail, which they were. The National Guard was. And so they, at the one level, they use something called Con Plan 3501, Defense Support of Civil Authorities. And that's the plan that's activated if they use helicopters during a flood or whatever. So that's the sort of benign plan. And then that's available publicly. It's called DSCA. And I think I saw a reference sort of in a way to the story that you guys just posted about this new camp camp thing. So DSCA is the benign one, and then Con Plan 3502 is the new, essentially the new guarded plot, the new stuff, the hardcore thing, the locking up. It is classified secret. And so I would, obviously urge anybody that has information about this to step forward, because this is very important to our freedoms. And I think it's a very concrete example of the kind of thing that people need to look into. But if we can find those details and lay them out, then I think everybody's operating from a position of better information.
Well, I noticed that when we posted our article today, leaked U.S. Army document outlines plan for re-education camps in America, we've got hundreds of others. There's been congressional hearings, and I had weird PSYOP folks calling in going, "It's not true, Alex. Stop lying, Alex." And it was like, wow, you could hear the tactics. They are really scared of us learning about this. And the thing is, then they say, well, it's been on the books a long time. I'm seeing a giant ratcheting up. Are you seeing that?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. But again, it's like, before Occupy started, I was really concerned that this whole system was going to easily roll out with any real, layers of resistance to it. And what I was encouraged by is seeing that essentially this, bankers building the police state agenda through organizations like IACP, that Occupy at least was something out there as a countervailing force to, raise awareness of that. So I have some hopes that I didn't have before, that maybe we won't have this ugly outcome. And I think
I agree with you. I talked to the military and police. They're finally getting it because people pre-warned them. They understand this. But like, take Occupy. People know that there's problems with Wall Street, crony capitalism, insider monopoly stuff. And so the media announces off of real activists, oh, there's this thing, go be part of it. Then they try to use the big crowds that are diverse to project, give George Soros more of your tax money, not to help the country or pay off debts, but to give them more austerity money. Then when that didn't work, Obama starts demonizing it when he did say it was great, and they have coordinated raids by Homeland Security shutting it down in what was it, 30-something cities. So there you see it all in action, where the system has all the money and power at one level, but more and more, because people are aware of it, everything they do is falling on its face. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I think that people don't like seeing their taxpayer dollars wasted for bullying people around. Everybody understands that we can't afford to spend money on this type of nonsense anymore. And everyone is really starting to understand and have the discussion about how financial corruption has damaged everybody's standard of living, and how financial corruption has taken over control of the political system through, what's called regulatory capture by Bill Black. And so I think that, step by step, we're getting this exposed. And so if people are going out to things like this NATO summit, I would say it's always a good idea to try to live stream video. This will be the first major summit where people will be able to have really wide access to live video, hopefully, assuming they don't shut down all the cell phone towers. And we know all the information that's been coming out about cell phone surveillance recently from the ACLU as well. But nonetheless, we will get more footage than ever before of how the federal government is building up police state structures and building up these large bureaucracies like HSI, and running them through things like NSSEs to acclimate everybody, get everybody ready, so to get all the wheels rolling, implementing things like Con Plan 3502 and other corruptions of what we thought we traditionally understood as the constitutional order in America, which involved not living under martial law and total tyranny.
Well, I'm impressed with your analysis and understanding of this subject. What do you say to people who just hear my show or read your blog? And I want you to plug all those here on air for us. We've had them under you, but it's important people visit those because your information is very accurate. What do you say to those that just kind of halfway pay attention, who don't know that it was in newspapers that Gulf of Tonkin was staged in '64? They just thought it was a rumor until it was declassified. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's the same way with these camps and these plans that I see being basically taken out of deep freeze and being, warmed up. I mean, folks need to understand this is real. What do you say to those who won't take the time out, who are watching this video, to go actually research it and find out we're not just saying this?
Right. Well, obviously, for one thing, it's always hard to know where to start. And that's why it's so important that we do everything we can to try to document everything. If we hadn't documented this, people wouldn't just sort of believe it out of hand. And I think that helps a lot. I think, all that we can do is say, listen, as activist media, we come at this from our own perspectives, which may not agree with you, but listen, you guys can keep looking, further into this. And I think that, platforms like InfoWars have done a good job of saying, listen, you got to get rolling and do your own research. But a lot of times it takes a personal experience, something strange happening, just being treated corruptly in a very routine way at the county level, for example. That's the kind of thing that radicalizes people to the idea that the government can be very shady and corrupt and dangerous.